Hi, Jonathan York from Bay Financial Partners, looking at investment markets. Another pretty amazing week for equity markets. You've got this still ongoing sort of issues with a potential sort of trade war. The US has issued further tariffs against Chinese goods. China has then retaliated and come back with a host of lists for US goods as well. And I say a lot of these are really hitting the sort of Trump sort of support base in the Midwest. Now, an interesting development with Xi Jinping coming out and giving a speech which appeared to sort of indicate that he was going to open up the Chinese markets, and that would then relax some of the tariffs that they're potentially talking about, which could then lead the way for these sort of backdoor channels to get a sort of negotiated trade deal to come through. US markets have sort of reacted pretty positively to that. We expect sort of global share markets to take their lead from that and sort of trade with a reasonable bid. That's sort of one piece of positive news out there for Trump. You've still got the geopolitical issues. You've got this potential sort of chemical weapons in Syria. And, Trump is sort of saying that there will be some retaliation. There will be some measures taken by the US if that's not sanctioned by the UN, and sort of meeting with the allies to see what they can come up with. And potentially sort of interesting because they appear to be including sort of Russia in those sort of negotiations that potentially could see action taken against them. And then finally, on the home front, you've got the FBI raiding Trump's lawyers' offices. He's declared that as an attack on the US and sort of a huge witch hunt against him. There is a potential talk as well that he might be looking at firing Special Counsel Mueller. If you remember, Mueller was the person that was put in charge of the investigation to look into the allegations against sort of Trump. And really would be pretty interesting that, if Trump then comes up and sort of fires him from those investigations, just as he's starting to sort of get close to, potentially some damaging information on Trump himself. So really a pretty sort of interesting week, and again, if you sort of strip out the sort of news on that and look at fundamentals from the market's perspective, you still got low interest rates, you got reasonable growth, you got a potential sort of trade war that seems to be sort of easing in sort of severity, and potentially will sort of get down to a sort of negotiated trade deal, which should be positive for growth going forward. The market's looking in reasonable shape. Interesting oil has sort of traded up as well. Potentially there is not so much damage to sort of global growth. That's sort of trading around $65 on WTI, around sort of 70 on Brent. Just going to be very interesting to see from a New Zealand and Australian perspective. With the Fed looking at sort of increasing rates again, and at least another sort of 2, maybe 3 times this year. US rates are going to be then higher than Australian and New Zealand rates. Last time that happened was sort of tail end of 1990s, and it's just going to be interesting to see how the market sort of trade on the back of that. Potentially by the end of 2018, US rates could be around 50 basis points higher than interest rates here in New Zealand and Australia. Commodities as well, sort of taking a little bit of a beating, with the sort of potential sort of trade war. But as that, starts to ease, then there's certainly a little bit of a bid coming back as, as I say, sort of global growth does look in reasonable sort of shape and potentially should sort of push on for the next sort of 12 to 18 months. Still a good time to check those KiwiSaver balances, as I say, to make sure you've got the maximum contributions in there to get the maximum tax credit. So if you're unsure on what those figures are, call us on 0800 867 323. Now, if you are looking for income options, I say, there's plenty of options available here in New Zealand. Certainly some of the shares out there on the sort of high dividend side, paying some really pretty attractive income levels. And if you're interested in discussing what's available, say call us on 0800 867 323 or go to the website www.bayfinancialpartners.co.nz for lots of interesting articles. And we look forward to speaking to you soon.